Dr. Hill here, and I just wanted to give a little bit of an update, a brief, concise version of Chapter 6 and 7. This is the second of two parts that I think will be helpful if either you didn't get the gist in class or you missed class and you're trying to get it for the first time. Okay, so the last video we talked about and we looked at the idea of grammatical function in a sentence, and in English, word order determines grammatical function. So it's subject, verb, direct object, and then you get your indirect objects and your possessives along the way. What I wanted to do today is to talk about how, as Greek as an inflected language, to make something a subject or an object, or to make it an indirect object or possessive, adds case endings. And we've talked about there's 4 cases in Greek that we're learning. The nominative, which is the subject, the genitive, which is possessive, the dative is the indirect object, and the accusative is the direct object. So, but in order to understand how that all works, one thing we have to do is we have to look at the way Greek words are formed, the way Greek nouns particularly are formed. So we're in chapter 6, 6.3. If you want to follow along, this is page 29 of the Mount's text. And he basically talks about this idea that a word or a noun in Greek, such as apostolos, and here we have apostolos. And what he's done is he's listed the stem of the word. And what we're going to find out is that stems of words either end in an omicron, and that makes them what we call second declension, or they end in an alpha or eta, which makes them a first declension. So in this case, apostolos has a stem. Here's apostolos, has a stem that is apostola. It ends with an omicron, and that's what we call our final stem vowel. So in the first and second declensions, which are masculine, feminine, and neuter, stems will end in a vowel. And the third declension, which we're going to learn in chapter 10, are stems that end with a consonant. So put that on the back burner for right now. But in this case, apostolos is a masculine noun. It's second declension. It ends with an omicron. And here we see an example of the nominative case, that here's apostolos with a nominative case ending, apostolos. And when it functions as the subject of the verb, will be the ending that it takes. But when apostolos functions as the direct object of the verb, it will take an accusative case ending, in this case, a nu. So you're not memorizing these endings right now. We're going to go through all the endings in just a second, but I just wanted to show you the way this works. So essentially, we have endings that attach to stems and then interact with final stem vowels. So let me say it again. We have case endings, like this sigma, like this nu, that attach to stems of nouns, and these case endings are going to interact with this final stem vowel. Okay, so here we see a sentence, ha apostolos, pempe, ton apostolon. In both cases, apostolos is the word here. That's the lexical form, apostolos. But because of the function in the sentence, here apostolos is functioning as the subject, so it takes a nominative ending. And here this apostolos is functioning as the direct object, and so it takes a direct object ending, an accusative ending. All right, so you might have to listen to that again, and that's okay, but just so we know, what we're learning here is that nouns are formed with stems. Stems right now will end in a vowel, and then there will be case endings that attach to that stem and interact with that final stem vowel, depending on the grammatical function of the word in a sentence. This is what we call an inflected language. This is how inflected languages work. So what I want to do is I want to look a bit of how this looks and how this works. I'm going to move this up to, if you want to follow along, we're going to go over to chapter 7, where we can look at kind of a full paradigm of this. And as we move, we're going further along here. So as we do this, we're also going to be learning about the article, and I'm just moving us through here. Thank you for your patience. And we need to get into chapter 7. There we go, 7. All right, so we're putting both of these chapters together because I think it's more helpful to learn all 4 of the cases all at the same time, and you can see the case endings. So what we're going to see is here are the case endings for masculine nouns. Here, and the nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, singulars. And then if you want to make something plural, you have different endings to make things plural: nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, plural. We have masculine nouns like logos is a masculine noun. We also have feminine nouns such as that, and these are nouns that will end in either an eta or an alpha. So alpha ending is our paradigmatic word is hora. Say hora, that means hour. And then graphe is another. So either an alpha or an eta. And then over here is our neuter words and our neuter endings. And they are going to go, they're going to connect with our paradigmatic word ergon. Okay, say ergon. It's works, or work, I should say. So there are case endings here. There are how the case endings interact with the final stem vowels here. And then what they look like when they attach. So here's the paradigm for logos. Here's the paradigm for hora. And here's the paradigm for ergon. Okay. Now, you can come back to this, but what I want to do and what I did in class is I basically wrote a chart that you can see here where I put all 3 different bits of information into one chart. And here we have the case endings. So sigma, upsilon, iota, nu, and then iota, omega nu, iota sigma, and upsilon sigma. That's the masculine case endings. And then these are case endings for the feminine nouns. And then these are case endings for the neuter nouns. Okay? Then I also put in here how these case endings interact with the final stem vowel. So when you add, for example, the sigma to an omicron, it becomes omicron sigma. When you add the upsilon to an omicron, it becomes omicron upsilon. Now the interesting thing about some of these, like for example, the dative here, the dative ending, the dative singular ending, is an iota, but because of the way this works, when the omicron and the iota interact, the omicron is going to lengthen to an omega, a long O sound, and the iota is going to subscript. And so the reason why we don't just learn the case endings, we also want to memorize and learn how the case endings interact with final stem vowels. And in this case, the final stem omicron is lengthening to an omega and the iota is subscripting. And so the ending of dative nouns, or at least these dative endings, are going to look like O. Okay, so you can look through this chart and see how these all interact. And anytime you have something that is underlined, it swallows up the final stem vowel. I'll walk through this with you, but this is just a very helpful chart. You can see here in the feminine, we have some nouns that end in an alpha, some that end in eta, like hora or graphe. And so when you have, and there's no, in the nominative, when it's the subject of a verb, you don't have any ending, no case ending. So it's just hora or graphe. But in the genitive, you add the sigma to it, and it's horas or graphes. Again, our iota is going to subscript underneath the vowels here. So hora, graphe, and then horon, graphane. When we come to the feminine and we go into the plural, even if the noun ends in an eta, there's going to be a shift to an alpha there. All right. And so what we have there is we're adding these case endings. Sorry about that. We're adding these case endings to our final stem vowels, and you can see how that works there. I've also included on this chart the definite article. So ha, he, ta, it's the word the. And the word the is in its various forms and as they interact with different words. So the article for masculine nouns will take on a masculine form, will take on a feminine form for feminine nouns, neuter form for neuter nouns. And the reason why I'm having you memorize this along with this, and I'm putting all of this together, is many times the article matches, so here oo and oo, o and o, on and on, will match the ending for the case endings as they relate to final stem vowels. So memorizing the article will oftentimes pay off very well. So you can take a look at this. I'll post this picture, but just this is a very quick recap of what we're doing, and hopefully this was helpful. If not, we're going to have a chance to talk about it in class. but ideally this will get us going and hopefully bring you a little bit out of the fog as we see it. So hopefully this will help, and we'll see you all in class.